Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Miller's Military Moments. I'm your host, as always, Master Sergeant Jason Miller, and Master Sergeant for about 18 days left. Yeah, about 18 days or so. And I sign out and head on to bigger and better things. So, hey, thanks for tuning in and hanging out with me today. Episode 22. It's pretty exciting. I'm always excited to share my next story with you guys, but this one in particular today has some personal meaning, not like the others didn't, but I'm going to talk about the month of the military child. So celebrating the military children. So April is, celebrating the military children, and, all kinds of months have something different to celebrate, it seems like these days, which is great because there's all kinds of things that either one, we need to be educated about, informed about, and learn about, or, just shared information and to be able to celebrate some of the great things that, have happened in our past or current, or, gain some knowledge. For example, Black History Month, Cancer Awareness Month, stuff like that. So April is the month of the military child. So today is going to be a little bit different as far as it's not going to be a story from necessarily my time in service. But it's going to entail, I'm going to share some stuff about my son, which is why this story is, very, it's particular to me for sure. And share a couple stories of some other military kids that have turned out pretty well. And, there's, I think sometimes the children of the service members often are forgotten in some of our challenges. And really over the last 20 years that, we've been at war, 19 years or so, they've gone through a lot. I mean, probably more so than normal military children. And so I'm going to share with you some of the things that they go through, and then how they not only have gotten through them, but have thrived in certain ways and became some just incredible human beings, and have just overcome so many challenges. And, so it's really pretty cool. And it's, there's a lot to think, a lot of people and situations to be thankful for why these kids have done so well. And I'll really kind of, sum a lot of it up, meaning parents and grandparents and anybody else that has been a caregiver of those children, because often you have dual military and sometimes both parents are gone at the same time, and you have, an extended family member helping to raise those children, and they still come out pretty darn good. So really it's so much, of that, having really good solid parents and a good foundation that have helped them become, some incredible people. But yeah, so today I just wanted to share some of those challenges that they go through and celebrating them, and really kind of pointing out, what they have, when they have become successful. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't anything handed to them, and, pretty tough. And a lot of times, these people, and especially when they go on to college and then into the workforce, I mean, these people, resilient, flexible, they're very compassionate, and a lot of times they are very high character people because of all of these challenges, and these are that they've overcome. And so really, I mean, these are people that you, as organizations and corporations and, different places that want to hire them or have them a part of your thing, I mean, noticing that they are and this is a delightful term, military brat, because they really aren't brats, but it's just a term that gets thrown around, but maybe noticing that they are a military brat, military child, and it's not that you're going to give them something for nothing, but realizing that they do have a lot of these other characteristics because they've gone through different challenges, and maybe they're a little bit better of a fit for your company, organization, church, whatever the case is. So, maybe it's something to pay attention to, because they are pretty phenomenal people and deal with some amazing things at young ages that, we typically don't want, children to have to deal with. So that's really what today is going to be about, and can kind of move into some of those challenges. As you can imagine, some of the obvious ones are they move around a lot, which is true, and some more than others. It's not some branches of the service move around more than others. Some parts of that branch move around more than others. There can be differences between if you're raised, if you're the military member as an officer versus enlisted. While there are a lot of benefits to being an officer, I will say that what I have seen in the Army, especially Army aviation, the officers move a lot, and really they they tend to move a lot more than even myself, and to kind of break down a little bit of my timeline so that you can see, what our son, and my son has given me permission to use his name. So JJ, Jason Jr. is his name. And the other two, I will not say their names, but they didn't want to be named in the show, but I can still talk about them. So he's 18, and obviously if you've listened to other parts of the show, I've been in the Army 20 years. So he was born when I was in the Army. So he was born in 2002 in Fort Hood, Texas, and we lived there till 2007. But one of those years I was deployed, he lived in Georgia with his mom. They moved to Georgia while I was gone for a year and lived with his grandparents. But he wasn't in school at that time, so it wasn't like he was changing schools yet. But lived there, and then we moved to Fort Eustis, Virginia. He lived there 4 years, and I was there only 3. One of those years I also went away again to Egypt for a year. So he started school and got to go through, a few years of school, and on-post school was really great there, and he loved it and loved the teachers and the kids. And I think he went through 2nd or 3rd grade. Then we moved to Fort Riley, Kansas in 2011, and so he went to school there. He went to elementary, and we were there for 6 years. So he went to elementary school, finished elementary, and then went to middle school and got all the way through 8th grade. And then we moved to Fort Bragg in 2017, where he started 9th grade and where he's getting ready to graduate from now. So he also, in some respects had it maybe even better than some, where he got to go to certain blocks of schools together, versus changing up so many. So he got to go 9th through 12th in one high school, which does help in a lot of ways. And then now I'm retiring. He's graduating high school. We're all getting ready to move, and he's going on to college in Georgia. And we're going to move back there too. So, I mean, he's done really, really well. And I'm going to share some of those details, about him a little bit later. But so that's one of the challenges when we talk about moving a lot. So there were certain big blocks of time that we were at certain locations, and some people move even more than that. So there's definitely those challenges. And again, different schools. So going to different schools, different states. So we all know, in the United States, the level of academic challenge is different from state to state. So, while you could be going to a really challenging school in one state, you go to another and it's not very challenging and it's way too easy. Vice versa, if you're going to a place that's way too easy and then you move to one that's really challenging, then the child can end up struggling. And so those are things that, the kids and the parents have to overcome and, work really hard at paying attention to and figuring out what's best for the kid and what they need to do to make it, successful. Another thing, like new friends, they meet a group of friends and they become friends, and then they've got to leave, or those friends leave, which happens all the time. And so they're the new kid at their new place every time, and it's hard. I mean, that is so hard as a kid, at that age, trying to be the new person, and nobody wants to talk to you, and you're sitting over at the lunch table by yourself, and so that's always a challenge for the military kids. And so in certain military towns, when you move to, it's kind of expected, and some of the kids are a little bit more open and receptive to new kids coming in, so that does help. But it takes time to develop those really lasting friendships and relationships, and it's tough. I mean, it can just be really hard on kids, and a lot of times they will shrink to kind of inside, to become really big introverts and just kind of hang out with their family, and not go out as much of their comfort zone. But other times they do, and they find great friendships and stuff. But it's tough. I mean, that's something else that they have to overcome. Another thing, so at one place they could be like the best athlete, like the best baseball player, basketball player, whatever. It's maybe a small school and they're just really good there. And then they move to a place where they're not, and they're not the greatest athlete now, or heck, maybe they don't even make the team anymore. Like, so now you've got to, as parents, you've got to deal with that. The kid has to deal with that, obviously, for that, and obviously it's upsetting. Maybe they lose their confidence, self-confidence, all that kind of stuff. And then, how do they deal with that? Do they just, say, okay, that's just what it is, and I'm going to focus on my academics, or I'm going to do other extracurricular things, whatever the case is. So that's definitely, another challenge. And, so I mentioned earlier the academics is, so, the academics can be easier or harder at different places, and certain, even credits, changing and going to, the different school and getting credit for a certain class at a certain grade level can change from state to state, and it, you could either be behind or ahead. So it's definitely challenging and frustrating. And then, the DoD schools, Department of Defense, has schools that are in our overseas locations. I think there were a couple left on Fort Campbell, Kentucky, but those might have closed. I'm not sure. But for the most part, our Department of Defense run schools are only at our overseas bases. And, that kind of goes into the next topic area of overseas. So when we move overseas and we have to live there for a few years, we can take our family, which is great. We can be with our family while we're there. But, those schools are typically really good academically, which is great. But also they can be small, which can be good, but you've got maybe fewer extracurricular activity opportunities. So maybe they don't have football, or they don't have, baseball, or lacrosse or something like that, because they don't have enough people, or maybe they don't have enough funding, which that happens. So now it's like, okay, well, what do they do? And, you've got to be creative and kind of find something else for them to do. And then with that small population, so now they're going to have fewer friends, and even fewer possibilities for friends, because maybe there's only 5 people that are kind of close to your age group, which could happen. And, it's like, well, what do you do? Like, maybe you normally wouldn't be friends with them, but you want that social interaction. And this is where another thing about like compassion and that flexibility, where these military kids really shine in these areas, because they accept that that's their situation, and they treat other people like, well, yeah, I mean, he's a nice kid, or she's a nice kid, and so, I'm going to be friends with them. And they become friends with maybe people that they wouldn't normally do, and they don't shun other people. They're more welcoming into their circle, of friends, and they don't want to exclude anyone. Versus, a lot of times when they're that new kid, other cliques and groups that have been there and been together for years just don't want to, bring them in. So that's another, challenge, but, it can be really good too, because those kids a lot of times become very close. And we already talked about like the fewer opportunities and even clubs and extracurricular stuff. There's maybe fewer of those. So another big challenge is locals in that place not liking the American kids or the military kids. And really for one example I want to talk about is Hawaii. One of the young men I'm going to talk about today and give some of his examples is, so Hawaii is considered an overseas duty station for us, for the Army. So we go for 3 years, minimum 3 years. You take your family, live there, and it sounds great, right? I mean, beaches, beautiful golf courses, awesome place to stay, which is good. But typically the local population there does not like the American military population that comes there, and particularly they don't like the white people, and that's just a fact. That's the way it is. Not all of them, and yes, I'm stereotyping, but there's been instances that obviously prove that is still true. And so as the kids get older, I want to say it's middle, maybe definitely high school, they have to go to school, in the local community, and it's very, very tough for them to go to school there. They definitely are shunned. They are, not welcome on sports teams. They are isolated. It's definitely really challenging. So that's something that you've got to deal with. The kid has to deal with. The parents have to deal with. What are you going to do? You can't just say, well, let's just move somewhere else. I mean, 3 years, you've got to figure it out. And some of these kids just really do an amazing job of working through all of those things, and not letting it bother them or stop them from, progressing in their life and towards their life goals and stuff like that. So Hawaii is definitely kind of an interesting place in that regard. And it doesn't, it's not always the best place to take a family, especially if you have high school age kids. The elementary school kids, you can go to school on post, you can live on post, and you can kind of isolate yourself in that military community, which is typically good. But the high school kids have got to go to school off post. So definitely creates some challenges there, for the kids. That, again, I mean, that's a state in the United States of America, and you wouldn't think that it would be like that, but it is. So, and I'll get into a couple other details, but that's one other challenge that's, really tough for them. So, one of the pros, or some of the pros, when they get to move around is, hey, you get to meet new people, right? So you get exposed to all kinds of people, cultures, places. So, when we look at even just the Army in the United States, you can be stationed in the Pacific Northwest. You can be, in the Southeast. You can be up north in New York, near the Canadian border, Fort Drum. You can be in the central part of the United States, several places in Texas, Kansas, where we spent 6 years. So you can, Colorado, over by the mountains. I mean, so you can, go to some places and meet some new people and enjoy different places that you would never go to before, or wouldn't think to go to, or have the chance to go to. And so maybe you go and experience that and be like, man, I want to come back to this place. You really like the people, the culture, the outdoor stuff, the indoor stuff, whatever the case is. So that is, a pro, that you get to kind of experience some of those things. And then, so a couple of places that the Army we can go and take our family is, so we can go to Europe, mostly Germany, and it's a 3-year assignment. And then, you can station there, bring your family, and then travel and all kinds of stuff there. And then Hawaii and Alaska are considered overseas tours for us too. 3 years again. You can take your family. And then, so South Korea is typically a 1 year, called a hardship tour. So you don't take your family, but you can now apply to stay for 2 years and bring your family with you. I think it's 2. It might be 3. I don't know. But it's at least 2. So you can take your family with you, and they experience, DOD schools again, and, some of those communities over there. But for the Army in general, that's, the only places overseas that you can go. There's a few small other places, but in general, that's really all the overseas places you can go and take your family. Italy's another one, but Europe. So, that's definitely a positive. And then I mentioned earlier, kind of the DoD schools, the academic stuff. They typically have really high academic standards, so they prepare the kids well for college. So that is really considered a pro. But I will say kind of a con, which is not a con on the DoD schools, but in general, we've lost, we don't have a lot of, the trades and the skills offered in schools anymore, anywhere. And the DoD is no different. They don't really have those things either. So, a lot more challenges to overcome than pros. But success at overcoming all of these things is, there's a lot of, listen, let's give a lot of credit to the kids. I mean, right. Let's give a lot of credit to the kids because, they have choices growing up and can sometimes let it bother them, overcome it, talk about it, figure it out. So they're just amazingly resilient. Listen, I am biased when it comes to talking about my son and, how well he has taken to everything. But he has just, every time we've moved, he's like, all right, pack it up, let's go. And several of the other kids have been the same way, and they have a great outlook. They have a great attitude. They're very open to the change and to, what's getting ready to happen. So, big kudos to them, and then really, again, strong parents in these households have really helped these kids, thrive and become, incredible human beings in society. So, kudos to them. And, as we, spend April celebrating them and really celebrating them a lot throughout the year. So, but I like having the opportunity to bring this attention to them, because so much of the attention, especially when we're serving, comes down to the service member, right? Like I'm the one that goes to combat and I'm the one that, goes away to training and I'm gone and all this kind of stuff. But man, I mean, the things that the families do back home are just, are amazing, and they're incredible, and they're resilient, and they're talented, and, they're just so awesome at what they do that, they need to be celebrated too. And we need to look at them, the same way you would look at me as the service member. They're doing all of these things at home while I'm gone, and they're also still, worried about me not coming home. So that's the other, aspect when you look at these kids growing up in this environment, and especially in the last 20 years. So I've been deployed to a combat environment 4 times. Well, that's 4 times that there's a higher risk of me not coming home than any other times. And they've still got to go to school, and they've got to, just be a generally good person and a good kid, and not let those those thoughts overwhelm them. And because it can be overwhelming and debilitating, and they just, and then the spouse that's at home, has to try to keep it all together, for the kid, for themselves. It's tough. And then they've got to do all these other things. They've still got to maintain the house and the school, and maybe their spouse has a job. And it's an incredible dynamic that a lot of people just I don't think we give enough credit to, especially the spouses and then the kids that have grown up in this environment, and really get enough credit to them as people and the stuff that they have overcome. So a few details, just for example, kid number 1, I want to call him, so we knew him for several years, and, this kid was excellent a baseball player, played on all the travel teams, middle through early high school, played football, super intelligent, high academic. And the best part is just a great kid, like all around, compassionate, friendly, open, didn't put anybody down, always willing to help and support people, which is a reflection of his parents, which were incredible. So this family ended up going to Hawaii recently, and this is where, I learned, a lot of these details of what happened to him over there. So of the baseball team that he got a chance, he made the team, never got to play, and basically he was the only white kid on the team. And there was definitely comments made several times, negative comments towards his race, and that the only reason he made the team is because he's a military kid. But when they were playing against other teams, there was another mostly white team, I think from maybe the mainland or something. I don't know that they played. And the coach made remarks of, I can't believe y'all are going to let these white boys come in and beat y'all, at this game and stuff like that. So anyway, this young man's dad, confronted the coach and made some, comments and said that's not, how you need to conduct business and treat kids and stuff like that. So anyway, he didn't play baseball after that, but I'm here to tell you that kid graduated as valedictorian in his class. So very successful academically, and then still got a full academic ride to the college of his choice, which he is attending right now. And I believe in the engineering program there. But, so he's so successful. I mean, he, endured all of those things and the moves and stuff, and just, really has thrived and is continuing to do amazing things and never let those things, stop him from, being the best version that he could be of himself. So kudos to him, and again, his family, just done a great job, really of molding him and, giving him opportunities to succeed. So, so kid number two, so I've also known for years, incredible athlete, incredible, academic person. I mean, just a kid, again, just overall, just a generally nice kid. So, he grows up in the small town, dominating athletics, really, really good. But they have to move. So then they move to another location. I want to say early high school. So I think he was there for 1 or 2 years. And so the academics were easier at that place, but then, he had a few challenges getting into the athletic side, but, worked his way into it and did, pretty well. And then had to move back to where he was previously, where now he's an upperclassman. So when it comes to, so the academics was not too big of a challenge for him because he was used to it, but then the athletics, so at least he's going back to familiar faces, people and friends, which helped, which doesn't always happen. I'll tell you that. You don't always get to move back to a place you came from. We never did it. But so he continues, honor roll, 4.0, all that stuff, excels athletically in a very small school that doesn't get a lot of, attention from schools and stuff like that. Well, so end result is he is a preferred walk-on to a Division I Big 12 school. And, is truly, just excited for the opportunity. He actually had other opportunities to sign with some smaller schools and probably, play maybe immediately or soon, but he's always wanted to go to K-State. He's always wanted to, play for them and be there, a part of that family. And he got that chance, as a preferred walk-on, and he says, I'm taking it and doing it. So his academic success, his athletic success, and his just being a really good person success is definitely something to be celebrated. I mean, it's just, really, really good stuff. So kudos to him and his family again, for really, providing that atmosphere and culture of, being resilient and flexible and, dealing with change and adversity and just being able to overcome it. So definitely great examples. And so the third one and last one, hey, I know I'm biased. I'm talking about my son. And, look, end result is he's getting ready to go to Berry College in Rome, Georgia, and, got many academic scholarships to go there. And I think his final GPA, he's got this one class left he's taking now, but is a 4.0. He's done really well academically. And I, described how he, moved at certain points, earlier. So some of those things were a challenge. And like, so one of the things when we moved to North Carolina was they put him in like, I don't even know, below level math classes and even a couple of other standard classes. And we asked, so the parents, we called and said, hey, why is he in this math class? They said, well, we didn't get his 8th grade transcripts. We only got the 7th grade runs one, so we put him in that math. And we're like, well, did you not ask? Like, why didn't you call us and tell us that? So we had to get involved anyway. We coordinated with the school to send the right transcripts over. Boom. And they're like, oh, yeah, he should be in honors math or whatever the case is. And we're like, well, yeah, like, so, this is a situation where, the parents definitely got to pay attention because the schools a lot of times don't care. And, maybe they're not used to a lot of military kids, which is strange because obviously where we are, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, there's like 50,000 soldiers there and a lot of, families live in this area. But so that was one of the difficulties, we had to deal with. And the interesting thing is actually we had an issue with his schedule every semester of his high school career here. It never was right. We had to, he would have to get it fixed and then we would have to get involved. It even came to a couple of calls to the principal. Like, come on, man, so very challenging, and it was frustrating for him because obviously he felt like, they're not even listening to me. He fills out the request stuff. They put me in whatever they want. And, so some of this stuff we feel like it comes from the military kid being kind of shunned and not welcomed into, their circles. So it definitely was very cliquish here. And this place was the biggest challenges for him, as a young man. And, we're talking 9th through 12th grade, some pretty, formative years. Definitely, kind of your average, normal kid. Like, he's, good in academics, good athlete, nice to people, doesn't, make fun of others. He's really welcoming, easy to get along with, doesn't always have to do what he wants to do. It was, so then, dealing with that, and he pretty much was isolated at school, like nobody, like there were so many cliques here to include the original principal that was here, that's not here anymore, and a lot of the administrative staff, the teachers, the kids. Like, it is definitely like, it's a huge school with 1,500 kids, but it's a small town atmosphere. Like, they've all grown up here, they all know each other, and if you come from the outside, like, like, you're not coming in our group, we're not welcoming you. And it definitely was like that. So even when it came to athletics, he had the varsity baseball coach was his history teacher. He had him in class, yet he couldn't even remember his name when he was out on the field during tryouts. And, a couple times, so you had to purchase clothing like the belts and the shirts and the hats and stuff before you even knew you made the team, which is crazy. And then, so he ultimately didn't make the team, and yet we could never get the hat and the belt and the shirts from him. Like, there was always some excuse of, I'm not at my classroom, or I'll be there at this time, or whatever the case was. And, so then, so that was like rough. He went from being a really great athlete and one of the top and one of the best to now, like, he can't even make the team. Like, he couldn't even make the JV team, and yet when we're kind of looking at the players out there, we're like, he's easily like as good, not saying he was the best out there, but he was, as a 9th grader, definitely good enough to make the team. But you could, even when we like went to some of the games to watch, like, even the parents in the stands were very like cliquish amongst each other, and it definitely was not a welcoming environment. And then, so when he did get a chance to play in the summer, after his 9th grade year, it was almost like they were throwing him a bone, like, okay, we'll let you be on the team, but like nobody talked to him. They didn't, welcome him to anything at all. Like, it was just, and then for an inning here or there, like nobody ever, even asked who we were, asked our names, introduced themselves. Nothing. It was the strangest thing we've ever been around, honestly, when it came to like kids sports, So that was tough. I mean, really, really tough on him. And, on top of that, because, a lot of times athletes, they make a lot of friends through the sports they play, and that kind of becomes your circle of your circle of friends. Well, now he doesn't have that. He doesn't have the athletic team. He ran track his freshman year, outdoor track. Well, it was called indoor track, but they were all outdoors. But it was the same thing. He was just by himself. Like, he didn't like make any friends. I mean, it wasn't his fault. Like, nobody wanted to be his friend. They didn't welcome him, into their circles. And so it was like, well, I'm not doing that anymore. And, so all that's gone. And then now it's like, 10th grade, 11th grade, like, I just do my stuff and I come home, do my homework, whatever. Very few friends, the constant struggles with the academic choices, with his classes and stuff like that, was very frustrating, not only for him, but also for us. And definitely just felt like, or hated to feel like this, but we felt like they're just out to get him, but we don't want to come across like that. It's like, we try to say, hey, it's just, sometimes you just got to deal with this kind of stuff and, keep working through it, and we'll get there, but you got to, keep working through it. And he did. I mean, he did. He, just kept a positive attitude and took it upon himself and would email teachers and counselors. And then if we needed to get involved, we would get involved and, try to do as much really politically correct as we could, well, not politically correct, but just, calm conversations to try to get, what was the best for our kids. So, without getting any favoritism. I mean, we didn't want any favoritism by any means. Because there was already so much that going on in this place that we were like, we just, want our kid to get what he needs and deserves. So that was tough. And his example is similar to a lot of others, a lot of other military kids out there. I mean, they go through the same stuff, and then, they can either get upset about it and not like it and, let it ruin them, or they can overcome it and, still remain focused on their goals, do what they've got to do to make it happen. And, I mean, that's what he did. I mean, he kept with it. He graduates. He's going to graduate here in a few weeks with a 4.0. He got accepted to, and I think this is right, 8 out of 10 schools that he applied to. And again, Barry, a private school in Georgia, he got basically a couple different scholarships, and with the GI Bill, it's going to be paid for, which is an exceptional opportunity. And, but he had his choice of several schools to choose from, yet, this school over here, like, doesn't even know who he is. They have no idea he's going to school, he's going to college. And, a lot of high schools typically like that stuff because they want to advertise, oh yeah, we have so many kids going to school, going to this school, that school. So military kids in general, I mean, they can go one of two ways, and he chose the way of, look, I'm just going to stay focused and, excuse me, do what I need to do to accomplish my goals. And that's to go on to college and, be, a physical therapist or athletic trainer. And he's working on both of those areas, and, he's going to be just fine. And he did end up making a few friends, his last year or so here. And, which is good for him. Every kid needs some kind of social outlet. So, but I mean, he's also excited to move and excited to head off to college and, experience a total different atmosphere than here. And which has just been really, really tough and challenging for him and, for us. But this is just something that the military kids deal with. And I know it's not just military kids. All kinds of kids deal with this stuff too. But, I really just want to celebrate these kids and what they've accomplished because, it's the military child month, in April. But really, anytime we need to, understand that it's such a service. It's a family thing. I mean, it's everybody involved is impacted, and we've all got to do our part to make it successful. I mean, I've been married almost 24 years, so I've been married longer than I've been in the Army. We've made it this far. Definitely have had our challenges and struggles for sure. But, my son, 18 years old, he was born after he came in the Army. This is all he knows. Pretty successful, bright young man, has an incredible future ahead of him. And so there's just a lot more to it than just me serving and, going overseas and doing what I'm supposed to do over there. So, so today, I'm just really happy to be able to share, these few little snippets of these three young men that have overcome some of these challenges and, are doing really well and are going to do some fantastic things in this world. And there's so many other, kids, military brats, as we call them, that are doing amazing things. I mean, they are crushing it out there. They are hitting it out of the park. And a lot of it is because of the environment that they've grown up in. And it's definitely not the, I want to clarify something. It's not the, I'm not a drill sergeant while I'm at home. I'm not a, you're going to be like this. You're going to fold the corners on your bed. You're going to, get up at 6:30 and do physical training with me. That is not me. That is not our house. And I'll tell you what, most of the houses are not like that. They are similar to ours, where we raise our kids not in a militaristic style. I don't know hardly any of them that do. So it's not because of that. It's not like, oh, we disciplined them and we created this discipline. No, not at all. So definitely not in that manner. So, but yeah, so I'm just really excited to share those stories with you today, that, there are exceptional people that are behind us, and, while we're serving, and the kids are no different, and they do some amazing, incredible things and become, such amazing people out there. And a lot of it's because of overcoming these challenges that they've had to overcome. So, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching if you're on YouTube. And, one easy way to find me, if you, depending on what you want to do, if you want to listen or watch, go to millersmilitarymoments.com. So that's my website, and you can get the links to YouTube, the links to the audio shows are there too, and all my socials as well. So you can find me in all the different social media areas. But yeah, so check out the website, and, I have show notes on there too, and pictures from previous episodes, that have to do with those particular shows. So yeah, definitely. Thanks for hanging out, and helping me to celebrate the month of the military child, April. And, so if you see some out there, or if you know some, say, hey, good job. Thanks for overcoming all those obstacles, and maybe ask them what was the hardest thing or the best thing about being a military kid. You might be surprised what they tell you. So thanks for hanging out with me today and joining us for this show. And so episode 22. So that'll finish us up for the day. Next week, I'm going to share my DART moments. What's it like being on a downed aircraft recovery team, and some of the more challenging events that I had in Iraq in 2003, trying to recover some of those aircraft. Unless I have Grant Belvin back on, which could be in between next weekly episode. But anyway, stay tuned. Follow my socials for what's coming up next. I appreciate all the support out there. Continue to take care of each other, and, reach out and help those that need it, and reach out if you need help, and let's take care of each other and make our little part of the world a much better place. All right. Peace.